Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of The Business of YouTube. Today, we are talking with a great friend, I have to admit. I play easy. Like I'm going to be a very good teammate, but we're going to talk with Paolo Provinciali. He's VP Marketing Growth, Performance and Operations at LinkedIn. And the reason we have him here is not only he's a great friend, I've seen him growing as a career in a way that very, very few people do. Like smart guy, international career, a super marketer, a guy that I learned from like many millions times. And especially like somebody who I usually listen to very much in all things marketing and video. Like he's an expert in video. So welcome to the podcast, Paolo.
Thank you, Paolo. You're too kind, and the feeling is absolutely mutual. Thank you for having me
Well,
today.
thank you. I'm very it's strange to have you on the podcast because we have multiple chats in many different countries and devices, and we talk in any kind of capacity. And I really admire your rationality, but as well the sense of humor. And there's one line that I really admire of yours that is like, we are very serious professionals, but we don't take ourselves very seriously.
We take what we do very seriously, but not ourselves. And that has been always our golden rule since we met each other 20 years ago. And we still, keep on chatting and living by that mantra.
Absolutely. I mean, the first time when we met, you just started after university, if I'm not wrong. Google
After
Dublin,
your master's degree. Yeah, that's right.
2008.
2008. It wasn't an easy time. It was the middle of the financial crisis, but we managed to survive and move on and do great things after that. So,
Survive
there is
and thrive.
brilliance from challenges oftentimes.
Absolutely. But tell us a bit of your story. So share your story, where you're coming from, and what do you do?
For sure. So I'm a kid from a small town in Italy called Ancona that now lives in New York City and is on a mission to change the marketing industry for the better.
Not ambitious. Ambition is not
ambition is not what I lack. Now we'll
not
see if
lacking.
I manage to. But it's I've as I said before, I come from a small town in Italy, and to be completely honest and transparent, I was an average student who loved physics and philosophy and hated Latin. And the biggest brain waste of brain power that a country can have, but we need to have a separate podcast about that. And for the people that don't know, in high school in Italy, you study in some high schools either Latin or ancient Greek, which I think it's a waste of hours and brain power. But once again, it needs to be a different podcast for that. But then, as you mentioned before, in 2008, I got the privilege of being hired at Google Ireland, where I met the wonderful Paolo Marinone here, and we became great friends since. I became very passionate about the world we were living in, which is the world of digital marketing and everything that was happening at the time. Google was, I think, 3 or 5 years old at the time. I might be wrong here, but it was in their first 10.
It was still a startup.
Yeah, it was a massive company already, but it was still, so different from what we know it nowadays. And we were in the ground floor of much of what the company was building and developing. And so that has been an absolute privilege. But an absolute privilege that also came with a lot of uncertainty and challenges. So as I was saying before, we were in the middle of the financial crisis, 2008 financial crisis. We didn't know what the world was going to look like. And we were very passionate about this thing called digital marketing and digital advertising, and all the digital mediums. And I remember at the times, our colleagues from other companies and even other groups and other departments were telling us and telling me, hey, you should really go into TV advertising because that's where the real money is. And that's what's gonna propel your career. And I was like, I don't think so. I think this digital marketing thing has a lot to offer. And so I stuck with it. And for good reasons, but it allows me to draw a little bit of a parallel to the world that we live in nowadays, where there is so much uncertainty, while at the same time we're at the verge of what we can call a technological revolution, and therefore there is a little bit of optimism that we can take into the world that we live in right now. After that, I was asked to move to Mountain View, to the United States, and so I went to the Google headquarters, and I was there at the center of a lot of the what the industry was doing and developing at the time. I was tasked to run advertising for Google products on the B2B and the B2C side, so that was absolutely a privilege. And at the time, Google was already a large advertising platform, but was not necessarily putting enough structure in the way it was advertising its own product. So I was one of the founding members of what is now known as the Media Lab, who again takes the advertising and the media for the Google products and advertises both on platform and off platform, and becoming one of the biggest spenders in the industry. I learned so much from the people there. Some of which are still in that team, and I owe them a huge amount of gratitude for teaching me the ropes and balancing this thing that you can be in a very innovative company and space while still appreciating the fundamentals of what makes our job right. And so that was a great experience for me. After 10 years then at Google, I was itching. I wanted to see the world outside the Google bubble. So I joined first a corporate venture capital group within Anheuser-Busch InBev, the beer company, and there was leading marketing for its e-commerce startups that we were either acquiring or buying. So there was the high growth element to the startup, but while also the venture capital component to that. Then they asked me to run media for the US, so big brand Super Bowl campaigns and all that fun stuff. And it's funny, I joke about the fact that they picked me because I was a digital guy, and they wanted to change how their mainly traditional media approach to marketing and advertising could change in the age of kind of digital and all these new technologies, from connected TV to digital video and all these kind of things. And so the first year that I ran the Super Bowl campaign for Anheuser-Busch in the United States, I actually bought 11 Super Bowl spots, which is probably, I think, a world record of the amount of...
They love you there.
Yeah, they love me there. And actually, as a matter of fact, the CMO actually was making fun of me. We got you because you're a digital guy, and the first thing you do, you buy
The Super Bowl,
Super Bowl ads. Yeah. And we can go into that. But it was fun. And then and now I work at LinkedIn, and as you said before, I lead a team known as the Growth, Performance, and Operations, which oversees the paid and owned media, marketing websites, data measurement and analytics for marketing, as well as targeting for marketing, and then the marketing technology. So anything that makes our MarTech stack go, but also experimentation and everything that is agentic, personalization, and all that fun stuff there. And similarly to Google, I am a marketer and an advertiser within a marketing and advertising platform, because LinkedIn is many things, amongst which also an advertising and marketing platform. But I get the privilege of being on the buy side, and therefore I can compare our offering with what's out there. And oftentimes I have hot takes on what the world might look like.
Well, that's quite a ride. And so from Ancona to the Empire State Building. So I'm wondering what's next, Mars or something. But definitely ambition is not lacking, but as well like knowledge. What I really appreciate is like the knowledge of the fundamentals, and I think that's key here from a marketer perspective. It's not, you don't make it up, you just go back to the basics. It's always go back to the basics and then apply with the latest technology. It's always something in between. It's always go back and move forward, which I find it very interesting. And based on that as well, like you've been experimenting a lot. I see your videos. I'm a big fan of, and actually go follow him on LinkedIn. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn in general. I mean, impossible to hide that. I love LinkedIn. You're sharing a lot of videos, very, very well made and very funny as well. Going back to we don't take ourselves very seriously. Why would you do that? Why video is so crucial for you?
Well, for a variety of reasons, I'd say mainly three reasons. First and foremost, it makes me articulate in what I do and my point of view with respect to the things that are important for the job we do. I find that oftentimes we get caught in the cycle of just doing, getting things done, solving problems left and right. But if you take the time to pause and actually articulate why a certain approach or a certain take to that specific problem, what the company, the organization, or the industry is going through was in hindsight the best one, or what you have done better, then it allows you to kind of mature in your perspective and therefore being a more advanced and sophisticated professional. So that's one, right? Getting better at what I do. Another thing is a big credit to what LinkedIn does is exposes you and gives you exposure to the best minds in the industry. So every time I post a video, I have the privilege of having my extended network seeing that, but also people that I'm not necessarily connected with. And these people are experts in this field, in my field, in their own field. And therefore, they can give me feedback, they can build upon it. And therefore, I get to stress test my point of view and my knowledge with the best that the industry can offer. And once again, it goes back to this idea of being really good at what we do. And then the third part of it is that it gives me visibility. And oftentimes when I meet people at conferences or in an industry or even colleagues and friends that I haven't seen in a long time, they treat me like they always hang out with me because they see me on their feed. And this is important because even though we are in a world of high technological advancement, a business is still made between people, and therefore having that kind of connection that you create, even in a direct manner, is very, very important, especially when you are developing your own business and when you want to grow your business. And for me, it's very, very important to also be a good a customer of LinkedIn as well, so that I can take an empathetic perspective to what our members go through, our customer go through, and make sure that we always steer the business in the right direction.
Yeah, and I highly recommend going watch all of the videos because not only you learn a lot, they are very funny. Like it was once that we were joking after Jenny from the blog, we have Paolo from the car.
Well, I quickly learned that I mean, this is a perfect example. I am, a marketer, and I've been working in media and advertising for 20 years now. And what I've been preaching for 20 years is that you have to break through the noise. You have, especially in the world of digital marketing and advertising, you have to stop the scroll, get people attention, and then give a message that will, retain with them. And so, besides saying what we need to do, I had the opportunity to actually experiment with it, to do it, right? So you make, we joke about it, and you send me texts on the weekends, making fun of my videos or complimenting me for my videos. But the point is that I had to think through how do I get a good hook, yeah, right, that gets people to stop the scroll. How do I keep your engagement so I can make it entertaining enough for you that you want to see through the 90 seconds or 120 seconds of my video. And at the same time, I give you some kind of value exchange and some kind of value in the information I'm providing you that for you is worth that time investment. And therefore, these are the basics of what good content, good video, good marketing is. And I get to experiment with it. So I think it's a privilege, right? And going back to what you were saying before, we can use the latest technology and the environment is always going to change. But the fundamentals of what makes good content, it's probably not going to change because humans are wired in the same way through millennia of evolution. And therefore, it's something that we can lean on.
And also at the end, just going back to your point, and then you read the data because then the all analytics then gets with it, and then it just starts the circle again and again and again. But now moving on, there was a post of yours that got me kind of a heart attack. I was like, oh my God, what's going on with Paolo? And I was like, I want him on the podcast right now. I want his point of view as a marketer about this. So I actually had it written here so that I don't forget exact wording. So it starts with hot take. in the age of AI, TV advertising is going to be more important than ever for marketing. Okay, this was the first line. Definitely a hook, no doubt, working hook. You got my attention, no doubt. And I was like, okay, Paolo, what's going on? I mean, you're the digital guy.
Friendly fire, what's happening?
It's like, you're the digital guy. I have nothing against TV advertising, but what's going on with you? And I understand, I mean, the Super Bowl guy as well, but what's going on? And then there's another line where it's like, engage people when they are in a lean back state. Now, let's explain this so there's no more heart attack. Exactly. What does that mean?
Absolutely. Are you familiar with the 95-5 heuristic when it comes to B2B marketing and B2B advertising? I can quickly explain
Go for it.
So there is a heuristic that was developed by the Ehrenberger Bass Institute and the LinkedIn B2B Institute, where basically says for any given category, especially accentuated in B2B, in the B2B industry, 95% of your audience is not in market for any given product and service that you're selling, and only 5% is in a buy state. And also, what happens is that when your target audience it starts getting into a buy state and therefore is shopping around for a product, they already start the shopping process with a limited set of companies or products or brands in their mind. And 90% of the time, the B2B Institute research has shown that they end up choosing one of those, companies that they had already top of mind. So this tells us a couple of things. First and foremost, it's very intuitive, right? Like, you don't go and shop for kind of like an agency partner, a technology partner, a new technology solution every year, especially again if you are in the B2B or SaaS kind of environment, right? So that makes sense. The second thing is that you, if once people get to market and they're ready to make a shopping decision, they're already starting with a limited set of companies that they might seriously consider, that at that point, the job that you have to do in order to market your business is actually becoming part of that limited set. And so the race, funny enough, is won even before it starts. By the time they get to the 5%, by the time they start shopping, already, you're either in or out. And yes, of course, there are some exceptions, right? But it makes you understand kind of the power of saying, I'm playing the long game. I'm playing before, and I'm out displacing my competitors even before my potential customer are becoming interested in my product and solution. And so there is that one piece there. And we can talk about kind of the role that content and thought leadership and video can play into that. But then there is this other thing that is happening in the industry that is very, very interesting, which has to do a lot with AI and LLMs and what we can call AI search. So if you see in any kind of business, it's B2B as well as B2C, what's happening is that the industry has reported that roughly a 32% drop in click-through rate for the from search, and Google has shared that up to 60% of the queries are actually zero-click queries. So people interrogate Google AI reviews or ChatGPT and so on and so forth to actually do the research on their product and what they're interested in. What's happening now from a brand, from a company standpoint, if you look at the surfaces and the websites that they manage, you see lower traffic, you see lower leads, but these leads are oftentimes way more qualified because people have done the research off platform, and now when they come to your website, they exactly know what they want. So how do you fight that? The chasing the lost traffic is a fool's errand. You're not going to get that traffic back. What you want to do instead is chasing, or is shaping the conversation where that is happening, which is through this LLM, through AI search and all these kind of things. But also this puts you in an echo chamber, because if I'm coming to, say, ChatGPT or AI overviews, and I'm saying, tell me who are the best companies for X, right? It's probably going to give you a list based on who has been longest in the market, who are the biggest incumbents, and who are the one that have the most amount of data out there, because that's how these LLMs shape their their answers and their information. And so here's where it's very, very important to hack the process. And there's where my provocation about TV advertising is going to be more critical than ever. If when I'm in a lean-in state, which is I'm actively doing this research, when I'm in the 5%, I am now considering a small set of companies or products, then you're creating a reinforcing mechanism for the incumbents. When instead I'm in a lean back state, I'm not actively researching that product solution, but I'm in your target audience, you need to drive your message to me, then you can plant the seed for what you do and what your company and your product does, even when I'm not researching. And now a wonderful thing is going to happen. When I'm back in ChatGPT and I'm telling you, and I'm asking, hey, give me the top 5 company for X, and I'm going to get a list of incumbents. Now, at some point, my next query is going to be, what about that company I heard about buzzed my videos? And the LLM is going to say, oh, I heard it has fantastic reviews and a killer product, and they won a bunch of awards, right? And at that point, you hijacked the kind of sales pipeline and the consideration set. But this is the reason why it's so important to think about the funnel in an expanded way, and not just focusing on demand capture, which is the 5%, but playing the long game with the demand generation at 95%. A long answer, but I hope that provides context.
Absolutely. So TV ads, everybody.
TV ads all the way.
No.
And by the way, TV ads, I still have a lot that they can deliver that many digital mediums cannot deliver, and so I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
No, I'm joking, because you're the digital guy after all. So I mean, I had to.
I'm a digital guy by trade, but I've been very agnostic on my preference for a long time. We do a lot of direct mail. We love direct mail as well. Like, it works, right message, right person, right time. As long as you can get to the right person, the right moment, the magic can happen. So the media that you have is a toolbox that you have.
Absolutely. And now, I mean, I think that every platform, no matter what, is trying to get to the TV set in a way or another. I mean, YouTube is, well, every platform really wants to be there for many different reasons. From an audience perspective, because the audience wants to choose whatever they're watching, wherever they want, whenever they want. But as well, like from a marketeer perspective, you want to connect different touch points in different times for different reasons. And TV is definitely more like longer kind of watch time, and you get to get your message heard in different ways for longer. And so it's something that everybody is looking into. And how do you see like different platforms trying to actually take over the TV device? Because that's what they're trying to, and that's clear. That was the end game after all, because their dollars will always come from like any percentage point of budget from the TV ads moving to digital platform. It's a big deal. So ultimately, that's where they're ending the journey in a way. So where do you see that going for different platforms?
Well, I mean, I think at this point in our conversation, we also need to make the disclaimer of the fact that the classification of what you consider TV ads is very fluid nowadays. Any network broadcaster now has a large CTV offering. It's probably most of their revenue nowadays, right? In the same way, you know this better than I do, but I think that YouTube is the number one CTV kind of video in the world, right? Like, it's basically providing more watch time hours than any other kind of like streaming service out there, if I'm not mistaken, right? So again, acknowledging the fact that the concept of TV is fluid, then we can have a conversation about the technical pipings that delivers that and does that targeting. And I don't think that this is the conversation for that, because we will be spending a lot of time in terms of IOs and ad servers and stuff like that we don't want to do. But think about TV as a medium, right? And therefore it's like, okay, the lean back experience, I'm sitting on my couch and I'm now consuming something on a bigger screen where I'm not necessarily, interacting with every 30 seconds or so by scrolling and stuff like that. Well, having said that, now it's a matter of understanding how can I deliver a message that it's either the right message at the right person at the right time, but also there is a level of contextual relevance. And I think that this is where the key is going to be going forward, because you can have the contextual relevance in terms of like, this is relevant to me as a, say, B2B marketer or a B2B, a CXO kind of like audience. And therefore I'm going to show you my ad for my HR solutions or whatever that might be, right? Or there is, the context given the programming that you're watching, and therefore how that message can be more relevant. And so I used to do a lot of that in beer advertising, right? The wonderful thing about beer is the fact that it's often present in the most fun moments that people go through. You're in concerts, you're in sports, you are at events and celebrations, right? And things like this. And before there was a very important kind of work that was done in terms of creating partnerships with both the networks and the distributors, but also the content, so that you can marry your message with whatever message was being served in order to create a higher degree of resonance. Because that is where I think things are going to be very interesting going forward, because you can interject whatever content people are watching with your message, and therefore being, to some degree, a tax on what you are consuming, or you can be part of the IP of that content and therefore become content yourself. And listen, any kind of advertising and any kind of marketing, in order to be effective, in my opinion, needs to consider the value exchange that you have between you as the advertiser and the marketer and the consumer and the audience that you're talking to. In order to take those, 30 seconds or 120 seconds or 60 seconds worth of attention, and we need to establish a value exchange. Am I gonna entertain you? I'm gonna make you laugh. I'm gonna make you cry. I'm gonna make you tell you something that is of value as an information. I'm gonna give you a better alternative for a problem that you have, and therefore you can basing on the value exchange, you can use all these levers to make sure that your message has resonance. And in the point when we step back on how this conversation started, then you figure out, okay, what do I use to deliver that message? And then it's a matter of like the screen that I'm watching at and who's serving that message to that screen.
Well, and based on that though, like what is kind of all getting together for B2C, where do you see that for B2B? Because like if we're looking at video in B2B environment, and I can obviously see LinkedIn, I can obviously see YouTube, but where do you see different devices in that? Where do you see video for B2B? Where's the growth going to come from, like from a marketing perspective?
So the cool thing that LinkedIn has done recently is having actually a CTV offer as well, that allows us to use the LinkedIn specific targeting, right? You want to target the CXOs of this company, but actually serving on a CTV environment, as well as you have in-feed. LinkedIn is investing a lot into kind of the video in-feed experience and dedicated kind of in-video sections, so that you can actually have the higher level of video consumption, because that is how people now like to digest information. And by the way, like the text posts or the PDF, the B2B PDFs oftentimes work as well, but like we see video as being a major level of growth, which is driven by the consumer trends that you see, right? Like you see, for example, from TikTok to Reels to all these kind of things, this is how people in their spare time are consuming content, and oftentimes that content is video. And this is the wonderful thing about B2B advertising that I always find fascinating, that whenever we talk about B2B advertising, we created dichotomy between me as a B2B buyer versus me as a person, as a human. And like B2B buyers are humans too. And therefore, they kind of
Surprise, surprise.
surprise, right? But like this is the insight of this podcast today. But like the thing is that if you think map about like how people go about their uh, day and their purchasing journey and things like this, you see a lot of similarities of how people consume content, and therefore you can forecast how the B2B content is going to grow with respect to how the consumer content is going to grow. And also, I'm going to blow your mind with another fantastic insight. We think that in the B2B buying environment, people are uber rational, right? They take decision based on one and zeros and the spec sheet, the price, and everything, and that's it. Actually, that's could be further from truth. First and foremost, there is not one decision maker, but it is a buying committee, right? There is me, there is the procurement lead, there is a lawyer, there is the tech security person, so on and so forth, right? And everyone has their own bias and motivation and incentives, right? We might want to make this deal happen, but also we have another concern on the other side, and therefore people make decision oftentimes by averaging for the safest option that you have. And therefore, going back to kind of how people make decisions and how you influence those decisions, you're speaking at an emotional level to the B2B buyer in the same way you do with a consumer buyer. And actually, what a B2B seller or marketer should learn is that should take a page from the B2C world, whereas you talk less about what a product does and more about what the product does for you and how it makes you feel, right? And there is this great analogy that airlines, when they advertise, they don't talk about what it takes to kind of the flight itself, but the destination. And that's a kind of like a page that
That's
we should borrow.
emotional.
It's emotional. That's the thing. And so there is we try to separate the two things, but I would argue they're not so different after all.
Yeah, to be fair, like when you say B2B marketing, the wording sounds boring like hell, but then it's actually a lot of fun. You can make it a lot of fun because ultimately it's how you're saying, it's like it's people.
The biggest
And
mistake that we can do is thinking that B2B advertising needs to be boring in order to be effective or be
exactly.
taken
Plain
seriously.
vanilla is not the answer. That's it. So
Absolutely,
you need
it's
to cut the
wasted money.
noise.
Breakthrough in any sort of way, right? And I think humor, if done correctly, it's a great way to actually break through. And this is the reason why, again, I make silly videos on LinkedIn, not because I like to be silly against the whole industry and the marketing community, my boss's boss, and everyone else, is because I know that is going to be a way to break through and deliver actually a very valuable message in a way that actually is entertaining and fun, and it gives that value exchange of saying, I'm going to entertain you for 30, 60, 90 seconds. At the same time, I'm going to say something that to me has value.
You definitely just do it for like rational reasons, and you don't do it for the fun of it. 100% not at all. Yeah, absolutely get it.
Yep.
Uh, now, just one very quick question about YouTube. I know it's video like across the board, but you're also a marketeer, like buying ads everywhere. So, what do you think that YouTube should do better for marketeers?
My biggest piece of feedback for YouTube, like many other digital players in this space, has been what I think network TV could offer, or TV could offer, that digital players couldn't offer, which is uh, for the most part, advertising on a YouTube, a Meta, or other platforms like this is much more of a putting yourself in between kind of the content that you're watching, right? There's not a very high level of content integration. And everyone is trying to solve their problem. Like even the same critique could be done for LinkedIn. And actually, we have established programs where you actually get your brand much more integrated with the content itself, because what I was saying before, in order to create resonance and relevance, you have to be part of what I'm watching versus just an ad break in the traditional sense. And the thing that for me was great, when I was working in beer and TV, It was that, for my can of Busch beer was in the NASCAR racetrack, and I had the commentator and the pilots kind of holding the beer or wrapping their car and being part of the experience and the content that you create. And therefore, to me, that has a much higher degree of resonance. And so this is also how we approach our partnerships with with YouTube, with many others, with creators and audio and podcasts and things like this. We try to go beyond the interruption per se, and actually create partnerships that allows us to merge into content. And we're doing some wonderful things with some creators. Both from a video and from an audio perspective, and I think that has something that platforms in general and marketers should invest more in, because it's both good for the advertiser, but also for the creator economy that ultimately fuels these industry.
All very, very intense. I think like there were a lot of interesting points that you made during these episodes. But now moving to, might be a bit personal, but it's the last question, which is my favorite of the podcast interviews. After all of this experience that you had, which is just dramatically great, really, it's I'm proud of seeing where you're going, and I'm always looking forward to see what's the next stage of your career and learning.
Just because I have great friends that provide a wonderful example to me and aspiration to do better.
Well, show me them so I can learn from them too. But I'm not sure, but I'm happy to have you as a friend, because I keep learning. So and I keep laughing as well, which is important too. But what makes you most proud of yourself? Like, what makes you proud? Anything that you've done, or like you're going to do, or whatever. I think it's so interesting to see like the reaction to this question. I think it's the most interesting from my point of view after all of these like very serious stuffs, but it tells a lot of the authenticity of the person that on the other side.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a difficult question to answer, which can take many different directions. But I will say something that I'm proud of with respect to what we've talked about so far, and kind of the professional context that we talked about, which is having built the credibility to push further. And so with our team at LinkedIn now, but also in the past, right? We've always tried to push to do something new, something different, something that has never been tried before. And in order to do that, you have to have the credibility from your stakeholders, everyone, all the executives and everyone, to believe that you can actually add value while taking risks. And, this is an example of where kind of, marketing oftentimes is seen as a cost center. And I'm proud to say that through the work that we've done with the team over the past 3 years, we're now seen as a credible level of growth for the business. And that has also allowed us to make investment and experiments in AI, new ways of doing things, in agents, in new experiences. And sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail, but this is part of the journey. And because I love so much kind of pushing things further, having the ability and the credibility to do that is what makes me very, very proud, and allows me to open up the doors for the people that comes after me, for my team, and for everyone I work with, in order to push the limits and push the boundaries further. And that makes me excited to go to work every morning.
Well, and going to the Empire State Building helps a bit as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, well, thank you very much, Paolo. It's been wonderful to have you here, and in this very small podcast, but very meaningful to me, and hopefully to other people. Thank you for giving us some learnings about marketing, B2B, having fun. So hopefully it's going to be it has been useful for many people.
The pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you so much to see you somewhere in the world.
For sure. Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, everybody.
Ciao.